In the last video, we looked at setting up a management VLAN. In this, we're going to look at setting up what's called the VLAN trunk protocol, or VTP. Now, what VTP allows us to do is to use essentially kind of like a shared database of VLANs. So if you imagine you had 40 or 50 VLANs on a switch and you had 30 switches, that's a lot of entry that you'd have to do. So through VTP, you set up your VLANs on one switch and you have all the other switches pull those VLANs off of that initial switch. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first switch. And we'll take a look at our VLAN. So you see we have VLAN 300. Let's take a look at our second switch here. And again, we only have VLAN 300. And remember, we set those up manually. Let's go back to our first switch. And let's go ahead and look at the current VTP status. Okay, so if we look in here, we see that this is using VTP version 2. It's set as a server. And that's kind of really all. Well, and there's no domain name. Let's go look at the second switch. Run the same command. And again, that's a server, no domain name, and VTP version 2 as well. Now, since both are acting as server, if we go and configure, let's say the one on the left, switch 0, if we do that one first, we start configuring all the VLANs over there, we run the risk that what's over on switch 1 may actually overwrite what's over on switch 0. Because when you have multiple systems that are set up as server, there's an algorithm that kind of determines who wins. That algorithm includes the version of the iOS, the uptime, those kind of things. So to make sure we don't have that happen, we're going to go and change switch number 1 to we'll put it in what's called transparent mode, and that really just makes it just kind of sit and listen but not act on it. So to do that, I have to go and config and go VTP mode transparent. Okay. Now, if we do our show VTP status, you can see it's now in transparent. So let's go back over to switch 0. And we're going to set up a couple VLANs. So VLAN 302. And we'll just call that V302. We will set up another VLAN. We'll name that. We'll make that 303. And we'll name that VLAN 303. And just for fun, we'll create 500. And we'll call that V500. So if we do a show VLAN on this, you see we have our original 300, a 302, a 303, and a 500. You see them here, and you see them down here. So we go back over to switch 1 and do our show VLAN. The only thing we still have is 300. Okay, let's go back over to switch 0. Now we have our VLANs configured. Now we want to enable the ability for it to be shared. And again, through VTP. So we're going to go in here and go VTP. And we saw earlier it was already in the server mode, so I don't have to change that. But what I do want to do is I want to give it a domain, and I'm just going to call it my LAN. Okay. Now, any other of the devices that have the same VTP domain of my LAN will be able to share VLAN information with this device. To make it a little bit more secure, we'll put in here VTP password, and we'll call it my pass. Okay. So let's just break out of that, come back over to switch 1. And in this one, we will also, let's do a show VLAN just so you can see everything's still the same. Do a show VTP status. Everything's still the same. We're in transparent mode. No domain. So we're going to go in here. We're going to go VTP domain my LAN. We're going to go VTP password my pass. Okay. So if I go do show VLAN one more time, nothing's changed yet. We start at 300. Because remember, we're in transparent mode. I said when you're in transparent mode, it's really not going to act on it. It's just going to listen. So we want to go VTP mode client. Okay. So now, if we do a show VLAN, magically, we have all these new VLANs. The 302, the 303, the 500. So now you can see how through the use of VTP, we can configure VLAN information on one switch and we can populate that out to other switches. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks, guys.